They are unique and inspiring and worth admiring for their efforts in creating lasting impact. The Deadly Trio, as I like to call them, led by Shrin Murthy, along with Debby Doig, Tamara Fennell, are here to fascinate us with their wonderful story. Fondly known as the White Coats, they have been written extensively in the Rotary magazine in the month of May 2024. I would also like to acknowledge and express my thanks to Theresa, a member of the same club and the same committee, for coordinating this program for us. Please welcome the White Coats of Colorado, Shrin, Debby, and Tamara. Welcome, three of you. Over to you.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's a big honor. It's certainly a big honor to be on an international Zoom. I don't think that when we started talking about this, Tammy and Shrin and I, we had any idea that we'd be here right now. So thank you so much, and welcome to all of you from around the world, actually. And this is being recorded, so there'll be many others that I don't see that I would like to welcome. We're not going to bore you with the PowerPoint. We're going to just tell you our story a little bit about how it got going and what our goals were. I'm going to ask Tammy and Shrin to plug in a few of their thoughts along the way. But it all started in 2021 when our children's hospital in Denver, Colorado is a big hub for the middle of the US. It's very well known, and it serves children not just from Colorado, but from surrounding states. So when our children's hospital declared a state of emergency for mental health in 2021, it got our attention, and they had never done that in their 110-year history. And although mental health had been written up and talked about in 2020, 21, particularly with COVID, there wasn't this outlandish pronouncement by any large organization, and certainly not around mental health, because even now it's somewhat of a taboo subject, but back then being just 4 or 5 years ago, it was certainly not talked about the way it is now. That pronouncement was followed by also by a state of emergency, if you will call it, by the Children's Hospital Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the U.S. Surgeon General. So those of us in our Highlands Ranch Rotary, we are people of action as Rotarians, and we took note of this. We have a substation of a children's hospital just 5 minutes away from our Rotary Club meeting. So can you guys hear me?
Request everybody to mute, please.
Okay. Anyway, we have a children's hospital just down the street.
Oh, ma'am, as a host, you can force mute everybody.
I don't know how to do that. If you can, please do.
No, ma'am.
So let's try again.
Debbie, please go on. Sorry for the disturbance.
Okay, no, that's fine. As wonderful as Zoom is, we've got to be very particular about what we're doing because it can have these glitches. So anyway, we took note of this, Tammy and Shrin and I. It's important to know that Shrin has volunteered in Children's Hospital, with Children's Hospital for years. So he even had more of a passion about what we were hearing coming out of Children's Hospital, and kind of gathered Tammy and I together and said, what can we do? This is a big deal. And it turns out Shrin and Tammy and I shared some stories, and we all have some mental health issues in our past, stories, as many of all of us do, that we really hadn't shared with one another. And once we did that, we realized we were even more passionate about trying to address whatever was going on in our society. So we began, the first thing we did was develop a committee, because that's a good thing that Rotarians do, is that they're always good about forming a committee. So we formed a committee, and several of the members that are zoomed in today from our club are on the committee. And then, just like a good committee does, they form a mission statement. So we did that, and we became pretty focused on what it is that we wanted to address, because mental health, of course, is a big, huge topic, and there's a lot of avenues and roads you can go down. So we wrote a mission statement that kind of targeted what it is we wanted to really look into. And then we began as a committee to read, to talk to professionals in the area, and to also talk to Children's Hospital about what the issues are with mental health. When you drill down, there are several avenues that are need to be addressed, but where were we going to fit ourselves in? I think that one of the statistics that grabbed us the most in 2021 was the pronouncement that for Colorado anyway, suicide was the leading cause of death for kids 10 to 24. And around the world, or around the country, it was number 2. And I got to thinking, my kids are grown, and I got to thinking about when my kids were young and running around as little boys. I have 2 boys, and playing and going to school. And did I ever think that the number 1 cause of their death could be them killing themselves? I guess I put it in that term for myself, and I just couldn't imagine what that is like now for parents and for kids. So we all really rallied around that statistic. Today, or a couple weeks ago, I saw in our local Denver Post that actually the number of suicides are going down slightly in Colorado. So that is really good news. And it could be due to the urgent need that they and so many people that really took note of what was going on. But anyway, in 2021, with all the statistics going on, talking to people around the country, we zeroed in on the fact that one of the major reasons is access to care. Parents and kids were landing in doctor's offices and emergency rooms and could not get the help they needed. Number 1, there weren't enough professionals, whether it was psychologists, psychiatrists, or even PAs that were knowledgeable in the mental health arena. And so our whole thing is we need to get access to care. We need to address the provider pipeline, which it's now being called. And we talked to a person at Children's Hospital that said that if there's one thing that she lays awake at night and worries about, it's the provider pipeline having to do with mental health. And obviously, there's a lot of reasons that the provider pipeline is not what it is for physical health, because it's not reimbursed as much. The insurance doesn't cover mental health like it does physical health. Doctors and professionals are not going into mental health like they are physical health, because frankly, you get more money if you're a cancer doctor or an orthopedic surgeon. So there's many avenues that we found out that are reasons why professionals are not going in. And that's one reason we decided to address access to care. And so with that in mind, we got together because of Shrin with the professionals at Children's Hospital, and we told them that we didn't want to just write a $5,000 check or something. We wanted to make a substantial difference. We wanted to do something that would last, if we could, into perpetuity. We didn't want to do a one-time, throw some money at it kind of thing. We wanted to do something that would last. And so they came up with some ideas for us, the development director at Children's Hospital. And the one that we globbed onto that was we completed is funding a fellow, uh, psychiatrist or psychologist at Children's Hospital and creating an endowment so that that endowment pays off every year and can help pay for the uh, salary and the stipend of a fellow at Children's Hospital. And I'm going to break right now because well, let me go on. I'm going to break in a minute. Let me go on. So we've decided on this, and I'm going to go back in a minute and have Tammy explain what a fellow is, because that's been our biggest question over the last 4 years. Please tell us what a fellow is, because people were not familiar with that. But let me proceed just a little bit down the road. When we got approval from our club, we got approval from our club board and our foundation board. We the committee, began to form an action plan about how we were going to raise $500,000. We're a club of about 100 people. We're not a particularly rich club. We're okay. We can pay our dues. We can help with fundraising, but we knew we were not going to raise $500,000 from our club members alone. And so we decided, the committee, and Tammy and Shrin and I, that we would go around Colorado Rotary clubs and ask as much as we could to help them fund this fellow. And we decided to call it the Colorado Rotary Endowed Fellow. We made an intentional decision to move beyond our club, Highlands Ranch. This became not a Highlands Ranch project. It became a Colorado Rotary project. And clubs from all over Colorado, and we have a district in our club that is about 3/4 Colorado, that would help fund this. So we began making appointments at various clubs to, number one, share the need and the data and the problem with mental health. And as much as it was written about at the time, there was still, and still is, but particularly in the early 2020s, a lot of stigma around the whole topic. And so, number one, we wanted to get the word out that we had researched this and what the data showed. And number two, to ask them to help fund this fellow, and that they would be part of a combined effort of Rotarians to help fund a fellow. So as I said, our biggest question in going around to Colorado Rotary clubs was, what is a fellow? So Tammy, can you try to answer that for us?
Sure, I'm happy to. Thanks, Debby. Yeah, we did. That was really our number one question, and people just couldn't get their head around what a fellow is. Now, I see we have lots of people on this call that have a medical background, so this you'll understand on but we found that many people thought we were funding one person, and of course, that's not the case. Uh, these are individuals who have received their medical degree, they've gone through their residency, and in this case, because it was a fellowship for pediatric mental health, they were choosing not to go into practice and see adult patients. They were choosing to go on and hone their training to treat kids, to see kids who were dealing with mental illness. And so, you know, the fact that we would be uh, raising money to provide extra funding to somebody who was looking to continue their training to specifically see children was really, really important to us. And in the context of that, when we were out sharing with people about the project and educating them about, the health crisis we were seeing with kids in particular in Colorado and mental wellness issues, I knew from my own personal experience that had my mother, who had bipolar disorder and OCD, had she received treatment when her symptoms first revealed themselves, her lifelong prognosis, which would have been much, much different. It would have made a difference in my life and the lives of my sisters and my father. And so we really wanted to have a fellowship that provided specific training for psychiatrists, psychologists who wanted to treat kids. And then the other question was, well, one person, how is that going to make a difference? So they didn't understand oftentimes that a fellow was somebody who was in training. And once that training was completed, another fellow would be named and receive this contribution from the Rotary Clubs of Colorado. And then after that, another and another and another and another in perpetuity, as Debbie said, in essence, creating this pipeline of providers that was really the focus of the end goal of our project. Hope that fills in a little bit of the gaps there on fellows.
So we proceeded, thank you, Tammy, to visit. In the end, we visited 47 clubs, most of them in person, a few of them by Zoom. But frankly, we felt more connected with an audience if we were there with them. In fact, it'd be great if we were all right now, all of you in the same room. But it's so wonderful we can do a Zoom when we're all over the world. So we visited 47. We ended up having 42 Rotary clubs help donate. Our club did a significant donation. Our members privately, and then from our endowment of our own club foundation. We set a goal for ourselves to have this completed by September of 2023, which was only a year and a half from when we decided to do this. Children's had told us that they would give us 10 years to raise this money. As we got into this and began going around to Rotary clubs, we realized, number one, we didn't have 10 years because kids needed help now. We didn't want to wait 10 years to get our fellow going. And number two, we had the passion right then, but we were afraid in another 2 or 3 years, we would life would get in our way and we would lose our focus. So we made it a priority of our lives, frankly, to keep going, talking to Rotary clubs and getting some funds. Now, since we're all Rotarians, you might have the question, why did you not write a grant? And the answer is because this was not a hands-on project. We were not digging a well. We were not serving food to the hungry. We were raising money. And that does not apply for a grant. So we strictly had to go into our fundraising mode as we went around Colorado. I want to make a note that in the middle of our campaign, Mr. McAnally, the former international president, became president. And he made his focus mental health, if you can remember. He stomped around the world talking about the unfortunate death of his brother by cancer or by suicide. And he impassioned everyone to take note of the dire situation, not just for kids, however, we focused on kids, but for humanity when it comes to mental health and the possibility of suicide. And we ended up using that information as we went around to the clubs because it was so timely. And we played a clip of Mr. McAnally's speech. And it really brought home for our Rotarians that our lead president at the time is being so vulnerable and open to the world about his own personal story. and really asking us to take note of that as a community of Rotarians that do believe in taking action. Anyway, the end of the story is we did indeed raise our money by September 2023. We had 42 Rotary clubs, as I said. We had several foundations that gave money that were tied to Rotary and tied to Rotarians. Our own club was extremely generous. And not only did we deposit on October 1 of 2023, $500,000 into the Children's Hospital endowment fund, we deposited $530,000. We actually went beyond our goal. And so because we had it in there by September, they could start looking for their first Rotary Fellow that was hired July 1 of 2024. So we had a fellow with us last year at Children's Hospital, a Rotary Fellow. We met her. We had her come to our district convention, and she gave a speech to those that were there. She's seen kids all year long and talked to families and been there when there wouldn't have been her. And she finished her fellowship and is out now in the world being a great psychologist. And we now have a new fellow, the whole idea of perpetuity, that started July 1 of 2025 that we have yet to meet, but we have a date on the calendar to meet her in a couple weeks. So that I will tell you that as Tammy and Shrin and I, and I'm going to ask Shrin to put in a few words here in a minute, but Shrin was the driver for all of our visits to these Rotary clubs. He would pick Tammy and I up and off we would go. We'd get some coffee and we'd hit the road. But we would go to these meetings and we'd give our presentation, much of what I just told you, but in the form of a PowerPoint, and it was more organized. At the end of the meeting, every meeting, there would be 1, 2, maybe 3 people coming up to Tammy, Shrin, or I and whispering in our ear about their own personal struggle with mental health, or the fact that they lost their daughter to suicide, or that their mother, or that they themselves were on the verge of a mental health crisis. The result is not only did we raise the money, but I really feel like we talked about the reality of mental health and helped lower the stigma to where there can be a conversation among like-minded people about what we can do to address this issue. And what we did is not what you need to do. Like Phil Work is on this. He heard our story and he's there doing their own activity. He's putting the thought and the passion into what they can do at their Rotary Club and in their community. But the fact is, Gordon McAnally inspired us to become champions in this effort. These are his quotes. He wanted us to improve access to quality mental health services. He said, through conversation, we can reduce the stigma of poor mental health. And he said, mental health services aren't broken, they just haven't been built yet. So all of us can take our part to help build what we can build in our communities. So he also ended his talk with, Gordon did, it's a big ask, but an important task. And those words will stay with me long after our project is over. Shrin, would you add some to the conversation? And by the way, we called Shrin, Tammy and I did, as well as the committee, our North Star, because he kept us focused.
Debbie, thank you. You said everything that I could say. It was a really and humble experience to go and talk to the people, experience their own feelings. That was important. So at least we have an opportunity to hear, what the kids are doing, by getting the help from the providers. Now, the foundation, the endowment has grown from $530,000 to like about $640 some thousand dollars, not only from the interest and the income and other things, and also from generous donation from other members, so who have seen what's going on in the system. So that's what it is. So again, thank you very much for listening to us. So hopefully we have inspired some people, just like Phil, to do his things. And then maybe we'll inspire some other group of people to do something that they think is important to their community. Rita, it's
Yeah.
back to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I was listening with so much of attention that I would like to listen to all of you a little bit more. And there are lots of questions coming into my mind. The topmost being that why was there so many suicides by kids in Colorado in the year 21? What were the chief reasons which you could find out from whoever you talked to, the survey you did with the families and the city in the whole area, Denver? What was the reason? Why were kids attempting suicide? Can you
Want me to
pinpoint
take that?
a few of them?
Yeah, sure, I can take that. I think they're still looking at that. They continue to look at that, but it was a combination of almost the perfect storm, I think. COVID, social media, just the disconnect that the youth were feeling and still continue to feel, but at a lesser degree because our statistics have shown an improvement. But I think it was just not that it hadn't been going on before COVID, but COVID kind of shone a really strong light on the problem, and it was a crisis. It was a mental health crisis among our youth in Colorado. And then actually, once that was declared, it spread across the United States. At one point, the Surgeon General declared a mental health emergency for pediatrics. So what we were seeing in Colorado was spreading across the country at the time as well. They're looking at other things like altitude. It could be a whole host of things combined that, in particular, made the rate in Colorado so high. But we still don't have an answer to that that's really clear cut.
Because if you Google Colorado, it says Colorado is one of the healthiest states in USA because of its outdoor activities and so why suicides and by young people?
Yeah,
Well,
I think it's just a matter of lots of different factors. Shrin, go ahead.
Sometimes the loneliness, people are so remote in some parts of the state, loneliness, and then they don't have any other social activities, maybe. There are so many reasons.
Yeah, so the Surgeon General did pass this advisory on loneliness in 2023 in United States, where he pointed out that loneliness has to be taken care of. It's a silent pandemic going on in the United
Correct.
States and perhaps everywhere in the world. And I do agree to that and this is all because of the digitalization. There is a book I'm reading which talks of it's called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And he says in 2007, we had the entry of the smartphone. So you had the world in your palm.
Mhm.
And the world shrunk. And it's from 2000 12, 10, 12, when the loneliness surveys started showing the growth of loneliness and all these mental health problems among the youth. It's a beautiful book released in 2024. It's a very recent book, Jonathan Haidt, called The Anxious Generation.
I have it, and I've been reading it too, Rita.
Yeah. So he talks about the digitalization, which has really hampered the mental health status of everyone, especially the youth. But coming back to your project, when you talk of training the fellows in pediatric mental health, how many are you planning to train? Like
It's
1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 12?
it's a once a year, it kind of keeps on going forever.
Okay.
As long as the children's hospital is in existence, so that will go on forever. So we hope, it can be hundreds and thousands, who knows?
Okay.
Rita, the money that is provided to the fellows, the psychiatrists and the psychologists who are in their pediatric mental health fellowship, comes off of interest
Yeah.
on the endowment fund. So as the fund grows in time,
Right.
it will last in perpetuity.
So it's like you've set up a program which will go on forever.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
wonderful. That's very nice. Because I was in Australia last year in December, and Australia Rotary Health is focused on research in mental health. They also do research in physical health, but primarily focused on mental health. And they fund research scholars, PhD scholars, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers. They fund them only if they are doing work in mental health. So it's called the ARH, which is the Australia Rotary Health. It is very impressive, extremely impressive.
Very nice.
I wanted to chime in and talk about how the Highland Ranch effort inspired our club.
Please.
I got to admit, I don't read the Rotary magazine in depth every single month, but in May 24, I came across this article about the Highland Ranch Club and what they were doing. And our club stages a fishing tournament every year and raise somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000. This year we just finished it in August. We raised about $88,000, and we've been sitting on. I'm sad to say we've been sitting on probably too much of that money. And after I read the Highland Ranch story, I went to our club and said, "Hey, there's got to be a project around here where we could do something like this." And we looked at food banks. We looked at we have a women's shelter here, but I went up to one place, which is our Child Advocacy Center in Jacksonville, North Carolina, which is run by a Rotarian, Dawn Rochelle, and said, "Dawn, is there something we could do to help one place?" And she goes, "Well, yeah." And along the exact lines of what Highland Ranch did, she said, "We're building this fabulous new Child Advocacy Center, and it is fabulous. It's purpose built to provide childcare, early education, and mental health services for children who have been traumatized or abused primarily. And about 50% of the children they serve are from the Marine Corps base Camp Lejeune, which is right next door." Anyway, Dawn said, "We're building this fabulous new facility, but we don't have the money to staff it." And to what Debbie was talking about, and we have a gentleman in our club who experienced this exact same thing. These mental health care providers say they go to college, they get a degree in social work. And before they can make any real money, apparently they have to get a master's in social work. But then they can get a decent job and provide for their family. Being able to, and I learned all this as I went along, being able to counsel children, say between 5 and 21, requires a whole nother level of specialized training, about 200 hours of supervised mental health care training. This gentleman in our club got the degree in social work, got the master's degree, but didn't have the time or money to go beyond that because he's an educator and he wanted to get into pediatric mental health. And he says, I was that guy. I couldn't do that. So our endowment, and maybe it's a little more ambitious than Highland Ranch, and sometimes I regret that because we want to raise $1 million. But it's managed by the North Carolina Community Foundation, and it will provide $50,000 a year to one place to provide that specialized extra training, also in perpetuity. Year after year after year, they'll be able to bring another provider on board, maybe two per year. But right now, as I mentioned earlier, we're competing a little bit in fundraising with the fact that they're still trying to pay off this fabulous new facility. They got about $6 million left out of 23 million to get. And so when we go and mention one place, they go, yeah, we know all about one place. No, I said, no, this is something different than the building fund. This is an endowment to train the people who are going to work in the building. So, but we've got two initiatives going on right now. As Highland Ranch did, we're going around to Rotary clubs and doing some personal presentations. I hadn't thought about using Gordon's video. I know exactly what you're talking about, Debbie, and that'd be a great idea to incorporate that, I think. And also we've got another initiative called I call it the Be a Square or 1,000 Squared Club. 1,000 times 1,000 is 1,000,000. So we're trying to get 1,000 individuals, churches, Rotary clubs, organizations, whoever, to donate $1,000 over the next year and a half by perhaps the end of 2026, and their name would be on an honor roll, if you will, in the mental health wing of the new facility. So we're calling it the Be a Square 1,000 Squared Club, and we're moving along on that. We've gotten some contributions already, but we're just kind of getting started with it. In the Metamorphosis newsletter, and this is what's fabulous about being in a group here that's all over the world. In the Metamorphosis newsletter, I mentioned that Rita put out, I think on the 8th of September here a few days ago. There is a QR code in the story about our effort that will take you right to the donation page. So if y'all want to spread that around, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so this is so inspiring. And you set off many other clubs doing the same thing. And what Debbie said, that they went around presenting at 47 clubs, and you were able to get 42 along with you. This is amazing work. This is amazing work.
We have about 50 clubs in our district, just in Eastern North Carolina. And one thing I wanted to mention, also 18, and I, again, not aware of this before I started this, but 18% of deaths of kids in North Carolina between 10 and 17 are suicide, almost 1 in 5. And that's just an incredible statistic. I don't know if it's the highest cause of death, but that's got to be right up there. And then you look at what's happened in the last week with we had the horrific murder in Charlotte on the light rail, the young Ukrainian woman, and then Charlie Kirk. I mean, these people, there's obviously a lot of mental health issues out there.
I think the takeaway for me personally from this project, and I had a lot of experience doing mental health advocacy work for many years before Shrin and Debbie and I kind of got together on it. But the big takeaway for me personally was to do something that would last forever, that would really, really make a huge contribution to individuals and families who were like my own, you know, and I'm sure that there are many of us on this call who understand what I'm talking about. To have the opportunity to make a huge impact that has been a passion in an area that has been a passion of mine for so long through the power of Rotary was really, really, really incredible. And I knew as we went around and made presentations to clubs that A, we were raising funds for the project, of course. B, we were educating people about the crisis, and C, we were breaking down stigma. So, I mean, we were doing a lot um, beyond just fundraising for an endowment, and that made me feel really, really good about it. It was an honor, and the process of working with Shrin and Debby, we worked really closely, and it really, I mean, we're like family with one another now. I consider them my best friends for sure. It was an
Yeah.
honor to work on this. Really was.
Tamara,
Yeah,
I
and
who,
think,
you were able to raise the funds within a year and a half, whereas you
Yes.
thought you'll take
well,
10 years to raise $500,000. Go ahead, Phil. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Tamara, who manages the endowment for you? Uh, I
Uh,
think some of the pushback we get is why isn't the Rotary Foundation managing your endowment? And I go, well, North Carolina Community Foundation is a four-star charity navigator organization, and they were local. And rather than be talking to some faceless name in Chicago all the time, we elected to go with them. And I think that for some reason rubs some people the wrong way. And so I'm curious who manages your endowment?
sure,
The
I'll let Shrin. Yeah, Shrin.
Phil, yeah, the foundation, I mean, the endowment is managed by the Children's Hospital Foundation.
Okay.
They got millions and billions of dollars in their foundation trust account. So this is a small amount, this is a restricted amount. So every year, we get a statement from them. So how much interest they have gained and whatnot. So it is much easier for them to manage it and then, support the fellow.
Okay, very good.
I think for anybody looking to make a mark in the mental health arena, it's just a huge undertaking. I mean, there's so many different ways you can go, but I think where my advice is, we really started with a few people talking about the issue, looking at our own state, talking to professionals in the field, finding out what some of the barriers are to young people getting help. And you're right, Rita, we don't know the exact cause, but we decided there's too many kids that we're losing that we can't wait around to figure that out. We've got to do something to help them now. So we tried to form something that worked with our Rotary Club. We got ourselves focused with a mission statement. We talked to professionals. We had a relationship already with Children's Hospital. We talked to them. So that's what I'm saying is just really look in your own world like Phil has and see where you can make a difference, because all we're trying to do is inspire others to really look outside the box and see what can be done in your communities. I don't know what's going on in other countries. I do know that several years ago, this is kind of off track, but I was in Ireland, and they had policemen schedule at bridges in one of the towns we were in. And I was asking them, the policeman, why are you here? And he says, we have so many young people committing suicide by jumping off the bridges into the water and killing themselves that we now post ourselves at the bridges. And so This was when we were trying to raise money in Colorado. I don't know how it is around the world, but I know in Ireland they were posting people at bridges so the kids wouldn't jump off and kill themselves. That just absolutely amazed me.
Yeah, you're right. I've heard about that initiative from Gordon's wife, Heather. So Heather talked about this, that how they are putting protective meshes on the bridges so that children can't jump off. And also keeping pesticides away, like not allowing the availability of pesticide easily at stores. Because that's one thing also which children go for is a pesticide. So anyway,
And
suicide.
I think we need to, I don't mean to say it that way, but be open ourselves in talking to our friends and about our own mental health struggles. Not that we dump it on other people, but be willing to be vulnerable, be willing to talk to somebody we care about and see how they're doing and reach out. Because we're talking about kids that are all in their zones, but we adults get in our own zones too. And we shut our garage door and we don't even know what's happening with our neighbors. So I think we can take it upon ourselves to even reach out to those in our communities and our Rotary clubs to just see how they're doing. Gordon asked us to say, how are you doing really? How are you doing really? And be willing to listen.
We have a few hands going up. Glenda and then Nan.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
Glenda.
Yes, thank you, Rita. So I just wanted to say thank you for sharing, and I'm really glad I showed up this evening. So I'm Rotarian here in the Philippines, and in October 2023, when our Gordon McAnally was the president, October Mental Health Month, you were featured in that newsletter. And with you, he mentioned another project, RCC Ilaw ng Tahanan. And I remember reading about you, and then I saw the news from our Rotary Action Group, and I said, that's the project, that's the group that was mentioned with the RCC Ilaw ng Tahanan, which I had founded here in the Philippines. And I thought, wow, like the endowment, the 400, I think it was, I can't remember the amount, but anyways, I just thought that's an amazing project. But to be mentioned alongside you, I thought, okay, so this RCC Ilaw ng Tahanan, it's a grassroots approach, very uh, upstream. It's really creating a safe space for mothers that are coming from like marginalized population here in the Philippines, in the rural area. And that's been going on since 2022. And to be mentioned with you, I thought that's so inspiring. And listening to how you did, you went around talking to clubs, really fundraising that way, it gives me an idea on what I can do to help keep it going. Because right now we are actually building physical space. We're calling it RCC Center, which is a peace and wellness hub where all mothers can come to have peer support. So we're getting ready to train them as peace builders and mental wellness responders. And then the second phase of it is now their children are coming to do art. So we're doing express and explore, really drawing, music, to have them express their emotions, because there's a lot, that's the issue here in the Philippines, is suppression of emotions. And so the suicide is probably not the same as in the US, but we have a lot of unhealthy behaviors, and it's all really related to um, poor mothering and like ineffective parenting, and then it just kind of ripples on to the kids, right? So, anyways, it's just such a pleasure to hear how you went about the project, and it just gave me ideas, and I'm gonna try to duplicate it here. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Glenda. Thank you for sharing that with us. We have so many hands raised up. Yes. Nan.
I
Can-
wanted to
okay.
clarify. First of all, thank you, everybody. That's amazing. It's an incredible project, and I think you're doing absolutely wonderful work. Thank you for that. The book you mentioned, Rita, I think you said it was called The Anxious Generation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And who was the author?
Yes. I'm talking about the same book.
Right. And who was the author of it?
Jonathan Haidt, Haidt.
Thank you very much. That's what I want to know. I can put my hand down now.
All right. We have Dr. Suresh Maran. Would you like to ask a question, please?
Yeah, so I want to just add some few ideas about the suicide. Two people, one people said the suicide is caused by fear of failure. Another person said suicide is because of bad mothering or parenting like that. So I just came in, I don't know the full picture, but I come from a family where many of my cousins has committed suicide. And I know lots of people and extended relatives or friends, they're very rich. They don't need to work at all. They excessive amount of money is there, but still they did commit suicide. So one of the things that I noticed is lack of social connectivity. They become alone. They have family problems. They have no idea where to go, and ultimately they gave up. So it's something got to do with how the world is becoming now, like more disconnected, and the social media is giving an illusion as if they are connected. But it's not connection at all. It's not the same as meeting people in person and sharing ideas and exchanging emotions, building a bond. Social media is fake social connection, and so I think these things need to be addressed. I think it's a big topic. So just I want to say my idea. I think this is the first time I'm meeting, and nice to meet you all. And I will be regularly coming to this meeting from beginning next month, and trying to open a chapter here. I'm working with Mukesh and Rita also.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We'd
Thanks a lot.
love
Thank
to
you very much.
we'd love to hear on that. Thank you so much. We have Dr. Goel raising his hand. Please go ahead. Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you.
This is the first meeting I'm attending, and thank you so much to all of you for very nice sharing. As a psychiatrist for last 35 years in India, I'm practicing with a diploma in professional psychotherapy from US, Dallas. First of all, I want to congratulate all this Colorado program which I was listening that endowment fund without the grant. That was unimaginable and really appreciable efforts what you have done. Regarding the suicide, the psychiatric aspect, what we have noticed is that there are psychiatric causes and there are non-psychiatric causes. So in psychiatric causes, we have 8 types of therapies which prevent suicide within 5 minutes, like a nasal drops of S-ketamine, just spray in the nose and the suicide disappears. There's the latest research available everywhere. Another is the intravenous ketamine infusion therapy. With the first session, you can take care of suicidal attempt in just 45 minutes. It's all available on AI or the Google or the net. Where the psychological part, what I want to mention is that in India, we have noticed that behind the suicide is an outcome, not the cause. And when we worked on the cause, that why do you think that suicide is the only option? Though I noticed that in psychological testing and psychological assessment, they said they have a fear of failure. And some of them said that fear of what others will think or say. So that misconception what they are carrying, and they took suicide as an action out of that. So we started helping them in understanding and handling the fear of failure or the fear of what others will say, rather than handling the suicide. I said, go for the suicide, no problem, but uh, can we handle this part of that fear of failure or fear of what others will say? Well, yeah, that is what I am worried, what my father will say, what my teacher will say, what my girlfriend will say, boyfriend, something like that. And we discovered so many methods in psychology and psychotherapy, and we could save so many people in that by giving insight. Like, if I give you a simple example, he said, "Okay, I want to commit suicide because what people will think. I don't get the marks, or I'm poor, or I'm unlovable, or I'm not as good as you, and I don't have money, and all those things." In summary, that what people will think. I just, yeah, can you give me 5 minutes before committing suicide? So he said, yeah, sure, I can give you 5 minutes, but don't stop me after that. God, definitely, I'll not stop you. So I use the redecision therapy or the insight-oriented psychotherapy or resilience or
So, may I just interrupt you here, Dr. Goel? I
yeah.
think what you're saying is very valuable, and we can share this with a larger audience. And would you, we could organize one presentation of yours systematically in one of the meetings separately. Will that be okay with you?
Can you just in one sentence I can complete and
Yeah,
then
please,
yeah.
please.
Thank you so much,
Because we
Rita.
are nearing the time and we need to. Yeah,
If
please go
not,
ahead.
then we can take it later on. No
No,
problem. Carry
please,
on.
please close it with your sentence.
Okay, so I just told him just go to the 14th highest floor of the your building and look from there that how many are talking about you, what you are thinking. When he looked around, after half an hour he said, "Ki, no, nobody's talking about what I was thinking." So he was present to his own miss or the wrong directed thinking, and since then he never thought of committing suicide. So similarly, there are so many methods or redecision therapy. But if I can be of any help or this information can be of help to our Rotary via training, via sharing, as the Rita is suggesting, right? I'll be happy to do that
Yeah,
anywhere in the world.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's very valuable and we would make a presentation on that. Any more questions? Any more
So,
questions? Yes.
so what Dr. Goyal said applies to young people, right? Like towards the end of high school, those who compete for exams. So those are the people affected by this kind of behavior, right?
No, this is basically focus on that if they are committing or thinking suicide because what others will think, whether
Mm,
it's a couple or whether it's a individual or right, that applies to everyone.
mm,
Except what the Colorado is doing for the children. I don't know what is the psychiatric cause behind that or what's the psychological. That I don't know. But in rest of the thing, if they have a fear of failure or fear of what others will think.
Okay. May I invite Shivangi to express thanks to our very wonderful speakers today and to all the members present here today.
Good morning and good evening to everybody, all the mental health advocates from around the globe. And it's been a privilege to hear three great speakers and Shrin Murthy uh, advocating on the topic, which is the need of the hour. Because as I like to say, that Rotary is present right from our birth to our death. Rotary is there everywhere. So this why this field should be left behind. And it is good that people are doing so much work where we can get inspired and replicate because you all have been able to work out the kinks in the projects which can come. So we don't need to do and overcome the hurdles hence. So thank you so much, everyone. Looking forward to seeing all the beautiful faces again in the next open meeting. And have a great weekend and have a great night and day.
Thank you so much, Shivangi. My battery is running down. And thank you so much. Pleasure listening to Shrin, Debby, Tamara. Thank you so much. It was really an honor and a pleasure listening to
Yeah.
you. And thank you, members, for attending. We'll see all of you next month. And it'll be a pleasure to meet all of you again. Thank you so much.
Please know it's our honor that you logged in this morning to listen to us.
No,
Thank you
the
very much.
pleasure is ours. It was so wonderful to have you here. Very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
See you
Ella.
all. Bye.
Thank you so much.